Welcome, Chakra Collective, to another empowering episode of Chakras and Cusswords, where we blend spiritual insight with a dose of real talk. Whether you're here to deepen your chakra knowledge, explore the cosmos, or you just need a place to vibe with like-minded souls, you're in the right space. Let's dive into today's journey of energy, empowerment, and a little bit of cosmic chaos. I am so glad you're here. Welcome, Chakra Collective, to another empowering episode of Chakras and Cusswords. Hello, everybody. It's Catherine from Chakras and Cusswords, and I just want to give you guys a little update. I created this podcast before the second presidential debate that occurred between Donald and Kamala Harris, and then also I recorded it before the second attempted assassination that occurred with Donald Trump, I believe, in Florida. So I just wanted to give you guys a little update on how come I don't talk about those two key times in possible potential U.S. history. So I just wanted to give you guys that update, and let's get into the episode.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello. Welcome back to a Chakras and Cusswords podcast. My name is Catherine, and today's episode is all about the 2024 presidential election and the top candidates who we have running for the Democratic Party, Kamala Harris, and also Donald Trump for the Republicans. So we are going to get into a look at the astrology, also how the astrology ties into both these candidates, the astrology of the night, and some of the alliances and astrological connections that seem to be in favor for one candidate versus the other. We are going to definitely look at both candidates' charts, do a reading for that night of the 2024 election, and also a synastry chart of how these candidates really meet up with the US. Which one has a better connection with the USA? And I will be honest, this prediction is going to be based off of astrology. I'm not going to tie my political views into it whatsoever. Believe it or not, I am going to talk about some of the key issues that we've been hearing. I know a lot of astrologers have been nervous to actually make a prediction. I don't blame them. This is definitely a high energetic movement. There are some astrologers who have been very definitive about their predictions. There have been some who have said Trump is not going to win, point blank. There's also been some who said Kamala is not going to win, point blank. I'm not going to name out these astrologers, but they're out there. If you want a full breakdown of each of these individuals' charts completely, I highly recommend you check out their birth chart readings. I've already done each individual's birth chart reading and kind of gave a back history of Harris and also of Trump. But if you just want to overall what I see in the cosmic energy for that night, what I see with the energy of the two individuals, then definitely check out this podcast. Okay, so before we get into reading each individual's chart and how they create a connection with the US and also the correlations of how they might win this presidential election through the cosmic energy, let's first talk about some of the things that have been going on in the cosmic streets with some of the rumors. There's been a lot of rumors, and it's been coming from astrologers and psychics, that often they mention that they don't see the election, that the election feels very, I don't know, it feels very like volatile. They also feel like they can't really see who they want to predict, or for whatever reason, there's been some type of complexity where it almost feels like the election is not there. So we have to remember that there is a lot of complexity to a presidential event, right? There's a lot of variables. There's actions based on millions of people. The outcome isn't determined by a single factor. It's by a multitude of influences, which could include astrology, and it could also include just cosmic energy and also the data of people going out and voting. Astrological transits sometimes have a certain conflict during election period. They make it harder to interpret these energies because it's such a high volume day of complex movement in the cosmos. And then also we have to remember there's a free will, right? Many psychics and astrologers believe that the concept is based off of free will. Who is going to elect the next presidential winner is basically off of the sovereignty of the collective, right? Off of the free will of the people. And there's also tons of ethical considerations that as an astrologer or a psychic might want to avoid in predicting something like the election, because it's a very high stake event, right? People might say, ooh, your prediction was wrong and I bet all this money, who knows? But when you have something with so much energy like a presidential election, there is possible consequences that come to it. So I think some astrologers are definitely nervous about making a full prediction, while some are very more confident in doing so. So the thing is about them not being able to see the presidential election, we have to understand that the presidential election highly has a good chance of going through. Even though people don't see it, for whatever reason, they just feel that they can't see it. There's only a certain couple of reasons why a presidential election would be canceled. For instance, if there was a national emergency, a severe national, major natural or terrorist attack or a war that breaks out on U.S. soil could lead to the presidential election being postponed. And then the president would have to have approval with Congress to delay the election. And that seems highly unlikely. Also, a public health crisis, for whatever reason, there's a widespread, uncontrollable public health crisis, such as how we had the pandemic back in 2020. We still had a presidential election. Could make it very impossible for some people to have the area to go out and vote, right? If there was some type of another pandemic that people had to, I guess you could say, shelter in place, then it would be hard for individuals to go out and vote. Also, a widespread civil unrest, a massive civil unrest or widespread energy of violence that could threaten the safety of the voters and the election officials, could lead to a decision that would delay the election. This would likely require extraordinary legal and political measures, given with the constitutional and logistical challenges involved. Also, the legal and or constitutional crisis. A legal or constitutional crisis that fundamentally undermines the ability to conduct a fair and free election such as the breakdown of sudden government officials, could lead to discussions about postponing an election. Failure of electrical infrastructure. So if there's a failure in the electrical infrastructure, could lead to a big, massive failure of the electrical votes, such as a massive cyber attack that disrupts voting systems nationwide. Could potentially lead to postponing or scheduling of an election if it is compromised by this cyber attack. Now, I will say, out of all of those options, the one that I think could possibly happen would be the failure of the electrical infrastructure. The fact that we are in Pluto in Aquarius, and there is a believed Pluto and Aquarius energy that has shifted over to Capricorn during this Pluto in Aquarius retrograde, and Pluto is now retrograde in Capricorn. I do feel that with these two alliances, there could be a possibility of some type of cyber attack. I do think that we see that with that energy. I believe Pluto will be back in Aquarius during this time of the election. I'm not 100% sure. We will look when we dive into the charts of that date more thoroughly. But we have to remember that Pluto in Aquarius, that area of transformation, will be moving into Aquarius in 2024 for good, which is seen as a period of major societal shifts. The Aquarius is associated with innovation, technology, and social justice. So this transit could definitely create some high themes, challenges, and also rebellious nature in restructuring the power of the US government. Also, some astrologers believe that this could be a signal, a move away from traditional power structures, and also could push towards progressive and unconventional change. Meaning, could this Pluto in Aquarius rock the 2024 election to its core? That's deep. Some of the other astrology that is occurring that's very prominent in the time of the election is Saturn in Pisces. The planet of structure and discipline will still be in Saturn in Pisces during the election. Pisces is the sign of sensitivity, intuition, and sometimes confusion. Saturn in Pisces can bring focus on dissolving old structures and also dealing with emotional and spiritual issues. The challenges that make this so much more focused on a reality base. This transit could bring a sense of uncertainty or need to address underlying issues that have been overlooked. We also have Neptune in Pisces occurring at this time, which will be adding an area of idealism, confusion, and also delusion. And Neptune's influence, we have to remember that Neptune makes it difficult to see things clearly. So this could be a reason why a lot of astrologers feel that they just cannot see this election. It also brings a mark of misinformation and idyllic promises. I do believe that there will be something big occurring with this 2024 election. I don't necessarily know if it is a full-on shutdown or this election being postponed. The Uranus in Taurus, the planet of sudden change and innovation. We also have to remember that Taurus is really associated with stability and finances and material values. Uranus is known to bring unexpected changes in areas of the economy and also financial systems. So this energy can feel very bold during this election time. This energy can influence voters and concerns about the economic stability and security. And what's interesting is we know that that is definitely a high topic with this 2024 election. We also have Jupiter in Taurus. Jupiter in Taurus is the planet of expansion during this time. So by this time, Jupiter will be in retrograde and will move back over to Taurus. Will also be a time that during this election, this transit could bring a full focus on economic issues and security with the emphasis of material well-being and resources. Jupiter's influence can amplify the themes in the sign it transits. Also, economic concerns is the significant role of this election. Trump's been feeding into it. Kamala's been feeding into it. So it's definitely taking the world and of course the US by storm. We have to remember that the area of everything becoming more expensive, people feeling like there is a huge imbalance in the price of materials, housing, groceries. People are feeling like there is this huge energy that has shifted. People don't feel like they are making more money. However, the political parties do say that Trump says no, you guys aren't making more money. Biden says we have more people working. We have more people making higher incomes. I will say that it is definitely difficult for the younger Americans. I know for me, I am a Gen X out of the house at 18, right? Gen Zs, the alpha generation, the millennials, they're having a harder time. I don't know why, if it's because they can't afford rent by what they're making, right? Back at my age, I was only making $4, $9 an hour, something like that. I think at one point, the most I made as a young adult was like $17 an hour. I was able to move out. Now, the price of housing is just not feasible to just pack your stuff and be like, okay, mom and dad, I'm moving and I'm paying all my own bills. Young adults are having to get not just one, but also 2 jobs. Also, one of the things that I want to talk about, the significance that's occurring during this 2024 election, is eclipse season. The 2024 election will be influenced by 2 eclipses and the 2 eclipse seasons. Eclipses are often seen as times of major change, ending and new beginnings. The solar and the lunar eclipses leading up to the following election could bring unexpected developments, such as shifts in public opinions or also the area of hidden information. We have to remember that with eclipses, sometimes that change happens suddenly, but the area of results will pan out years later. So whatever happens with the change, it is transformative. And there's also a big focus on economic issues, societal shifts, and also the challenges of navigating through an unclear and confusing time in cosmic energy. So I'm not surprised that a lot of astrologers are very hesitant to wanting to really look at a full-on prediction. Also, we have to remember that there are some key factors. So the astrologers that have occurred and offered a variety of predictions about the 2024 election, there are some things that really do stand out with some of these astrologers and people, or, whatever areas that they were picking up that have a lead in significance. For Donald Trump, many astrologers focus on the astrological chart, particularly his sun in Gemini and his rising sign in Leo, which they associate with his charisma and his ability to capture the public's attention. Trump is a very good communicator for people who enjoy his style of communication. I've said this multiple times. The people who love Trump, they crazy love Trump, okay? They crazy love that man, which they associate with that energy of leadership. However, there are some notes and challenges in transits, such as Pluto opposing his Venus in the Saturn aspect, which could also indicate difficulties or obstacles during the election period. And especially when we have it, Pluto opposing his Venus and Saturn, we see Pluto taking away from, not just taking away, but changing certain relationships. And the Saturn aspect, that area of limitation, we also have to remember that Trump still has lots of big indictments that are still occurring. He's still going on with his court dates. And that Saturn energy definitely could involve in something bigger. And it is occurring during election time. We have Kamala Harris's chart. She is a Libra. And one of the things that really stand out about Libra is that she is associated with diplomatic and balanced energy. Some astrologers believe that she has a strong, and also I believe as well, she has a strong and Venus placement in her chart, especially with that Libra sun. Also, she has a strong Venus and Saturn placement, which indicators her ability to connect to people and her potential rise to power. However, she also has some challenging transits as well, especially those involving Mars or Uranus, which could indicate unexpected change. I personally think some of the unexpected change is going to have to do with family life, but let's continue. The general election, when we look at the astrology, for instance, it could suggest a lot of unpredictability. We also have to remember that there are retrograde periods, Mercury retrograde, which is often seen as area of communication and breakdown, the eclipses, misunderstanding, and sometimes that energy will be highlighted during this electrical process. So let's get into a full energy reading of both the candidates and how they really work with the US. So let's start with the USA's birth chart. I've never gone over the USA's birth chart, but let's go over it. So the USA was born on July 4th, 1776, believed to be 5:10 p.m. in Philadelphia. The planets that the US has in its overall chart is a sun in Cancer at 13 degrees in the 7th house. We also have a moon in Aquarius in the 3rd house at 27 degrees. And we also have Venus in Cancer, Mercury in Cancer, and the Mercury in Cancer is in the 8th house. The Venus in Cancer is in the 7th house. We also have Mars in Gemini in the 7th house. We have a lot of high energy 7th house placements. We also have Jupiter in Cancer in the 7th house. We also have Saturn in the 10th house in Libra. And we have Uranus in Gemini in the 8th house. In the 6th house at 8 degrees. We have to remember that a lot of astrologers are nervous at when Uranus transitions over to Gemini in the upcoming year. We also have, and how that will correlate with the US, we also have Neptune in Virgo. That is happening in the 9th house at 22 degrees. And we have Pluto in Capricorn at 27 degrees, occurring in the 2nd house. We have Chiron in Aries, and we have Chiron in Aries in the 4th house, the North Node in Leo in the 8th house. We also have the Ascendant in Sagittarius, aligning more in the energy of 12 degrees and the midheaven is in Libra at 1 degree. So the astrology for the U.S. is definitely intense. The U.S., when we look at aspects, definitely has some high energy aspects. Has a sun that squares Saturn, Mercury sextiles Neptune, Venus squares the midheaven, Mars squares Neptune, Mars sextiles Chiron, which is very interesting for the U.S. Also, the sun sesquiquadrant the moon, and a sun quintile Neptune. We have a lot of sun in conjunctions with the ascendant, the moon in conjunct Mercury, and we have a lot of semi-squares, and also we have a lot of energy opposing with Mercury in opposition of Pluto, and Pluto trines the midheaven. So the Pluto alliance is very big for this energy when we look at the U.S.
Has tremendous potential. I think that much like the mind, I think that America is using very little of its potential. I feel that this country with the proper leadership can go on to become what it once was. And I hope, and certainly hope, that it does go on to be what it should be.
What should it be?
Well, it should really be a country that gets the respect of other countries.
Is respect the most important thing in your opinion?
Well, respect can lead to other things. When you get the respect of the other countries, then the other countries tend to do a little bit as you do, and you can create the right attitudes.
Too big to rig. We're going to make America great again. And that's for our veterans right there.
So let's compare Donald Trump's chart with the USA's chart. And for those who don't know, if you want a full reading of Donald Trump's chart, please check out his birth chart. I did a birth chart reading on him, the individual, and also on Kamala Harris's and also Biden. And I explained some of the reasons why I felt like Biden dropped or would drop, because I did the chart before he actually dropped. So with Donald Trump, he is a Gemini sun, Sagittarius moon, and Leo rising. Now for Geminis, this is considered a good time because we have that Jupiter in Gemini transit. But when we look at the US's chart in comparisons with Donald Trump, there is definitely a lot of high energy that I would say kind of plays out with these two, right? The energetic movement is high with these two entities, individual and collective energy. I do think that's why Trump is able to create such a alliance with the US and also with people who like him. So the people who like him love him. We've discussed this many times. And the comparison shows. So their overall score is pretty high. It's a 10. It's a 10. Long-term goals together, pretty high in the energy of long-term stability is a 10. Career support is a 10. When we look at that energetic alignment, it's actually a 9. Home and family is a 9. We're going from 1 to 10, and it's a 9. The area of stability, when I look at home and family, the correlation is about a 9. Communication is about a 10. Like I said, people who like to communicate with Trump can communicate with Trump quite well. They like the way that they perceive the messenger that he gives. Money is a 9. I don't know if that means that Trump is making more money for the U.S. or the U.S. is making more money for Trump. The area of passion, and I guess you could also say like the sacral chakra experience, is at a 10 as well. So 1 through 10, he's high scoring in the 9s and the 10s, nothing less than a 9. The overall chart, when I look at it as a whole, it feels messy in some energies, but it also feels like there is a deep alliance and there is a correlation just off of intuitive insight. Intuitive insight makes me feel like Donald Trump does have a chance of winning. The sun so the USA's sun is in Donald's 11th house. And one way that we see this is we see this big energy. We also see this energy with the collective. The areas of the 11th house symbolizes goals, objects, also friendships. So it does feel like the collective is energizing that entire place. The planets, the close relationship to the sun makes me feel like there is a good chance that he could have a strong tie to win, especially with the USA sun in Cancer occurring in the 11th. Makes me feel like the collective really sees him. When I look at the USA's moon is in Donald's 6th house. We know that the 6th house is areas of patterns and also emotional, healthy, and overall well-beings. It does have a contra-parallel natal to his Mars, which could mean that there is some area of aggression. It also, the moon represents that energy of Cancer, and it is exhalated in Taurus. So this is also centered around the USA's moon being in Aquarius. Makes me feel that the collective really, again, understands him and is attracted to him in that significance of they want the rituals, they want the overall space to continue, they want the areas of manifestations, the disciplines, the mastery, and the energy of producing new achievements to continue to occur. So I do think that the USA's moon in Donald's 6th house does play some area of notion with him. Also, the Mercury in the 11th house, again, in the 11th house, we have more energy tied into the 11th house. 24 degrees does let me, and it is to believe to occur in the energy of retrograde. That energy makes me feel like it's ruling the signs of duality. It's also ruling the signs of communication. It has an emphasis of goals and objects. The Venus in Donald's, the USA's Venus in Donald's 11th house, and it's also parallel to his natal sun, contra-parallel to his natal noon, parallel to the natal Venus, and parallel to the natal Uranus, and parallel to the natal Pluto. The Venus is the planet of love and relationships, and this energy of relationships. This energy of relationships feels refined. It feels to be a pleasurable experience for the people who have been intrigued by Donald. They like him there. Also, I want to say that Donald is a life path of 4, and he was also born on a full moon energy, and the energy of gains and areas of movement. Also, the energy of the dog too can be seen as very highly stubborn. So we do have to look at that energy as well. Let's take a look at the Jupiter, because a lot of people, we have Jupiter in Gemini, but this time Jupiter is in, when we look at that Jupiter energy with Jupiter, the USA's Jupiter is in Donald's 11th house. To me, when I look at this makes me feel like goals and objections will be created on a collective forefront, especially with energies of relationships and also with associations. So to me, that has a big significance. We also have Saturn in Donald's 2nd house, USA Saturn in Donald's 2nd house. This is where I feel that area of discipline and responsibility. Also, Saturn rules Capricorn. It could be taking a hold on Donald, the Saturn in the 2nd house, the energy of possession. But that's Donald's individual energy. And you know what's interesting is that a lot of people say that Donald Trump has gained money, but they also say he has spent a lot of his own money. So it makes me wonder, does the USA like rob him blind by him using all of his finances to basically try to win this election? We have Uranus in Taurus, USA Uranus in Taurus in the 10th house. This to me feels like a challenge for Donald, especially with the energy of Uranus in Gemini, USA's Uranus in Gemini, but also the area of Uranus rules Aquarius being exhalated in Scorpio, also associated with the energy of the 10th house, which is career and the public life, lets me know that there is always going to be some energy that is going to be very unpredictable. This is not going to be a free, easy campaign. This is not going to be a free, easy election. Now, we already have seen an assassination attempt. I do believe that this Uranus in 10th will bring some challenges, especially the USA's Uranus in the 10th is going to have an area where we are going to see the feminine, the opposite sex, continue to be brought up. The feminine, the democratic feminine, the independent feminine, they don't like Trump for the most part. The feminine that do like Trump are usually conservative, and the ones who aren't conservative do not like him. So it's almost kind of like we know that the Republican women will vote for him without a question, right? Regardless. But the independent women will not vote for him because of this Uranus in the 10th house. We also see that that's standing around the energy of the opposite sex, usually the opposite sex parent. This is when it feels and it will affect the public life. Also, we have to remember that there's also an area of that energy where the career would really be perceived as having a disruption with these two, even though it is good for the most part because they are high scoring, because he has a parallel natal to his Venus and a parallel natal to his Sun, but there is definitely some difficulty. The energy of Neptune in Donald's second house, also USA's Neptune in Donald's second house, makes me feel that he might be, and it's at 22 degrees, it also makes me feel that he might see that area where he thinks he's making a good decision while continuing to play with the USA, because the USA is, in all honesty, where he's received his most recognition, his most fame, his most blah, 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 blah. But when you have the USA's Neptune, he might need to take off those rose-colored glasses and just say, maybe I overthink this. Maybe I was being a little delulu and I'm not going to win. But I will say, when you look at the recent polls, they are very close, about 50-50 for the majority. This election is very high intense and it is very divided. We also have USA Pluto's in Donald's fifth house. This Pluto is a force of change that can be very destructive in power. The Pluto is what is going to fuck Donald Trump. And like I said, the Pluto is what is going to change this election for him. The USA Pluto in Capricorn at 27 degrees at that energetic alignment, the energy of underworld, that energy of movement is literally going to ultimately create a evolution for the spirit. It's going to create an area. It's going to bring intense passion. I don't like the Pluto in the fifth, USA's Pluto in the fifth for him as being a winning candidate. The reason why is because the fifth represents creativity, expression, and also offering. It is also associated with areas of passion. So this Pluto, where he has such a high energetic passion with the USA, can also create a sudden change and a movement, especially as we have all of this movement with Pluto occurring around this election time. But we will get into the area of the actual aspects of what is to occur around the election date. But overall, the strong aspects that Donald Trump has is a sun square with Chiron, the moon opposing USA's moon opposing his Mars. So the connection is very powerful, but he also has to pay attention to areas of emotion and also areas of desires and comfort and security. We really see that. He also, with the USA's moon squaring Donald's midheaven, it feels like this partnership is directive and it does have a purpose, but the achievements can also be very difficult in acquiring certain movements to move forward. The Jupiter squaring Donald's Neptune, I do not like. I also don't like the Mars opposing Donald's moon and also the Mars conjuncts with Donald's sun. So all of these feel very volatile. It also feels like while it works out good on the long run, there's also a connection, a two-way connection. So the USA sun in a semi-square within 1.6 degrees within Donald's Mars, this two-way connection is powerful, but also it means that they have a energy of following with material gains. So the strongest blends of these two energies, these two planets, the Mars symbolize positive self-expression and action, but also there is a shared between the partnership where it feels like the goals can be enthusiastic, but it also feels very volatile. And that is something that makes me a little nervous in an overall long relationship. The energy of Pluto really stands out to me when I look at his chart. The Pluto opposing Donald's Venus. This dynamic and relationship with the partner also symbolizes a deep initiation in the connection. There is an energy that feels almost like too tough. It almost feels too tough. It feels like a twin flame relationship when I look at this chart. Like a lot of lessons. There is a solar connection. There is definitely like a soulmate connection, but it also feels like there's a lot of lessons that need to be learned. In the aspect, the USA having a Pluto in a strong opposition with 1.8 degrees with Donald's Venus makes me think that there is always going to be jealousy between the two. The USA is jealous of the charisma that Donald has gained. And I don't believe that people who are controlling the USA necessarily want Donald back in there. And we will talk about the shadow government in a little bit, closing out of this podcast. But I believe that there are people who do not want Donald Trump back in there, 100%. So let's talk about Donald Trump, or his horoscope, however you want to put it, for November 5th, 2024, around 6:45 p.m. This is the energy of the election night, okay? So we have a sun, his transitioning sun in the third house. Information is coming easy to him. It's available. There is an emphasized base of communication, even though it might feel like the data is a lot. This transitioning sun is in Scorpio at 14 degrees, and it's occurring over the third house. We have to remember that energetic socialization and energy of future and writing is right there. He's seeing it. Also, the transitioning moon in the fifth house, transitioning moon in Capricorn at 6 degrees. We have to remember that there is going to be a very, very dramatic movement, and you are going to feel very dramatic and creative during this energy. There's going to be a lot of self-confidence and energy of assertiveness. There is going to be opportunities that blossom with this change, especially in the energy of movement around promoting yourself. So he might, he might be as headed in a good space. We have the Mercury transitioning Mercury in Sagittarius at 4 degrees, and that's occurring in his 4th house. At this time, emotions are more deeply felt. Also, he's able to express himself, and there is a consciousness. We also have to remember that this energy is contraparallel natal to the sun, parallel to the natal moon, contraparallel to the natal Venus, contraparallel to the natal Uranus, contraparallel to the natal Pluto. We have a Venus in Sagittarius that is occurring. The transitioning Venus in Sagittarius is at 23 degrees. A lot of people feel a certain way about that 23 degrees. We have to remember the transitioning Venus in the 4th house at this time urges for more security. It's also urging for the importance of paying attention to the home life. And it might feel that there is a tendency to withdraw from the world. So for whatever reasons, he might want to take a step back emotionally, which makes me feel that there could be a chance that whatever reason he didn't get good news and now he wants to take a step back. You may tune into the emotions needed as well. We have to remember that probably around this time, the actual results have not come in, but this is a high intense moment for him. We also have a Mars in Leo, and this is transitioning. The transitioning Mars in Leo is at a crucial degree. It's at 0 degrees, and it is over the 11th house. This in energy could either be a big emphasis about the next 6 weeks, how the next 6 weeks are playing out, that energy to take part of actualization. What's also interesting is this transitioning Mars in Leo in the 11th makes me feel that during this transit, he needs to kind of go through some problems. And also there's going to be some area of social groups in his favor, but also a lot that are not in his favor. The most thing that he's going to want to focus on is his public appearance. Also that energy of the leader. He is going to be working very hard to achieve his goals, but it is going to feel volatile. And that's in the energy of the 11th house. We also have Jupiter in Gemini. So Jupiter in Gemini will be the transitioning Jupiter in Gemini will be in his 10th house. To me, this seems like a good focus for him. During this transit, it will last for about that energy for about maybe the next year. And this energy is going to speak areas where he does need to be careful with money. And also there is going to be association of getting bigger and badder and, kind of having that overall movement of feeling one aligned with what is happening around him. It's also going to be a deep energy. During this time, we have the Saturn in a Pisces. And overall, I feel like the Saturn in Pisces is going to have a connection with the 7th house. The transitioning Saturn is over the 7th house. And there's going to be an energy of relationships that's really going to have a shakeup. You may also have a sense of self-resilience and even some isolation. So he might have to take a couple step backs. Also, we have the energy of Uranus in Taurus, transitioning Uranus in Taurus in the 10th house. I don't necessarily like this for him as a upcoming possible elective president. This does not feel good. This shows conflict with authority and potential figures that also arise. There's also a power that he has attempted to break free and create some areas from previous patterns or from public self-expression. Personal freedom is going to be very important to him right around the 11th house. The Pluto in Capricorn. Neptune in Pisces in the 8th house. In all honesty, I'm not too worried about the Neptune in Pisces in the 8th house at 27 degrees. I don't feel like it's going to play much focus with this energy of Donald Trump on November 5th. But what stands out to me is the Pluto in Cap. Pluto transitioning, Pluto in Capricorn, 29 degrees in the 5th house. This will usually last him until the retrograde is over. And at this time, he may feel an underlying urge to be recognized. He also wants that power. There may be an underlying feeling of insecurity and safety arising. And it's basically seen as the struggles of movement. And there is a strong sense that he will have to come to an area that feels like a power struggle. There's also going to be a power struggle within his immediate family in areas of career, such as the children, or even with his marriage. And this power struggle could be because he won the election, but the power struggle could also be interfering with the home life if he didn't win the election. This transit is strongest within 1 degree, and it's going to occur for up to January 20th, 2025. I also feel like that energy is really tied into his contraparal natal Pluto and also his natal Venus again. One of the two long-term aspects that I do not like from this night is he has a Uranus sextiled with the natal Venus. This energy is a challenge. It's also highly likely to create transformation in energies of movement and energies of relationships. During this time, values are also changing. So what was once important in energies of relationship is going to have to create a change. And there is going to have to be some energy that moves. Also, we have Uranus squaring natal Mars. I don't necessarily like this for somebody who is planning on winning an election. You are likely to experience an altercation, an energy that has shifted that sacral chakra, also has shifted the energy of physical energy that progresses towards some of his goals. So the awareness of being, fully entwined does not feel like a good movement for somebody, because he needs to be careful about some of his emotions, and a lot of explosive movement could really show forward during this time. So there is a chance that it feels very volatile, and he needs to be aware that certain changes and adjustments in the direction of his life that he was taking is now not as comfortable as possible. And also these changes have to be met. So that could mean the thought of being president has come to a overall not lasting movement, or he has to now change to become the president that the US expects him to be. So definitely interesting. Then we have the Pluto in conjunct the natal ascendant, transitioning Pluto in conjunct with the natal ascendant. This planetary energies also does not feel like it's going good. This energy feels very dominant, and it also feels like it's affecting the self-expression and the possible energy of creativity that he once saw, because Pluto symbolizes the process of death. I feel like there was a death that occurred with the natal ascendant, which we know the natal ascendant is that Leo energy, the energy of movement, of being a leader, and also being that charismatic leader that so many people want him to be. But unfortunately, there are some misfortunes coming his way with this transit. And it's not a good look on that day. It's not a high energy movement that makes me feel that he is going to win. We also have the transitioning Neptune in conjunct with the natal Mars. This planetary energy, again, is not flowing smoothly, and it must be in energies of discrimination, especially around career focus. So you may find a disconnection in energy more than usual, a sense of confusion regarding goals, and also there is a abrupt, brutal, and mean energy that's really going to be coming this way, directed towards assertiveness and almost animal-like passion. So ideally, the road that he has been given is not looking at the best. Maybe he's starting to backtrack. Maybe he's starting to wish he didn't win, but I don't see that. So for me, there's some aspects I do not like in that energy of November 5th for Mr. Donald Trump. Okay, so let's get into the energy of Kamala Harris.
To turn black recently for political purposes, questioning a core part of your identity.
Yeah.
Any
Same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
That's it?
What are you doing? Herbs from my garden. Onion, lemon.
What is this process of the juice and then?
Come on, honey. It's a baster, and the juice is you baste.
What are you doing now?
Caramelizing the onions, Nina.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
No, you need to.
I need to learn.
Videotaping me. I'm trying to teach you. You're more interested in being a video.
Get in my belly.
Get in my belly.
Harris's her main attributes is she too was a full moon baby. She was born October 20th, 1964. She has a Libra sun and an Aries moon, and she is a Gemini rising. So she is a dragon, Chinese dragon. So we are in the year of the dragon. The dragon is a fire element. And she also has that Aries moon. What's also interesting is her vice president is a dragon too. So the VP and the possible president are both dragons in the year of the dragon. I would say that alone is a good aspect for her. She also is a life path of 5. I do believe when she picked her VP, in all honesty, 2 dragons together, and I don't believe Donald's running mate. I believe he's a rat. I believe Donald's a dog in Chinese astrology, and JD Vance is a rat, but I'm not 100% sure. I haven't fully looked at JD Vance's chart. I don't plan on to, just like I don't plan on looking at, I believe his name is Waltz. Like I said, I not huge in the political scene, but I am reading their charts. Okay, so Kamala, when I look at her correlation of how she, I guess you could say, get us along with the U.S., overall score is a 5. Long term is a 5. Career support is a 5. The energy of home and family, 1 through 10, is a 5. Areas of stability. Communication is at a 4. America does not like the way she communicates for whatever reason. Money is a 6. romantic attraction, areas of passion is a 6. I will be 100% honest. I've never really seen her as wanting to become president. I think they took some area of convincing her. I do think that they looked at her charts, whoever they are. I do think the fact that she's a dragon and her running mate is a dragon is something that was looked at in the year of the dragon. I'm just saying. Okay, let's get into the chart, because overall compatibility with the US is not as strong as it is with Trump. When I first see the chart, it does feel messy as well, but it also feels like there are some good correlations. Just like not as strong as Trump's though, I will say that. But I do feel like the US, some people in the US like her better. Okay, so USA's sun in Kamala's first house at 13 degrees. Right there lets me know that there's different levels. There's both a energy of ego, and there is also a area of personalities unfolding, and there feels like there's an individual destiny aligned with the two in 13 degrees. The USA's moon in Miss Harris's 9th house represents personal and self feelings and also unconsciousness. It is a reflection of representation, and this USA moon is in Aquarius in the 9th house. I feel like the collective will definitely see her. I feel like they feel like she's adventurous. There is definitely that area of contrast behind the female receptive versus the masculine or positive principles. I do feel like a lot of men will vote for her just because they don't want to vote for Trump. Like the Democratic men will definitely vote for her, just like the Republican women will definitely vote for Donald. The moon also represents energies of the past. So her past is always going to be brought up no matter what. The 9th house lets me know that she's able to create that energy of philosophy and movement that represents that energy of travel and expansion, where a lot of people do enjoy learning from her. And then she has that parallel natal Saturn, which could kind of be something that holds her back, especially in the energy of the 9th house with the collective, with it being in Aquarius. We have the Mercury in Kamala's 2nd house. USA's Mercury in Kamala's 2nd house, I do like that. In fact, that the area feels very intellectual. It feels like she's able to create energetic gains. USA's Mercury in Cancer is in Kamala's 2nd house, which lets me know that there's energy of resources. I believe people believe that she's making a change. She will be operating with career material needs and also indicate what you value the most highly. So I do feel like if she's able to create that expression, people will enjoy it. I do think if she wins, this will be her one and only year. Venus in Kamala's 1st house, the energy of relationships, the energy of sympathy in certain aspects, the individual. I feel like she focuses on the individual in the US. USA's Venus in Cancer is in Kamala's 1st house. This is a strong alignment for her. Sometimes it's referred to the area of where she is right now with certain aspects of movement and expression and how others in the relationship can feel that expression. So I do think that's a good correlation for her. We also have Mars in Kamala's 12th house. This is at 21 degrees and it is in the sign of Gemini. USA's Mars in Gemini exhalates in Capricorn, which rules. So we have to remember this energy. Mars is the planet of activity and animal passion in the 12th house. And it rules Aries, but is exhalated in Capricorn. So it feels like there is like this drive, this passion, this masculine energy. And it does feel to really bring this unconscious awareness. Also like on this energy that could be karmic. And it is traditionally associated with confinement and also the self-undoing. So there could be a lot of karma in the 12th house. And I think we've kind of seen that with some of her campaign. There's still a lot of people who speak out against her for things of the past. We have Jupiter in Kamala's first house. I like this for somebody who's running for president. Jupiter in the planet of energy, of movement, abundance, positivity, and optimism. Jupiter in Cancer, moving and representing that area of the first house, how people see her. People feel like they're getting lucky with her. I don't feel like people felt they were lucky with Biden. They felt like, oh God. I feel like more Dems will be voting, more independents will be voting. I feel like if it was Biden, he would have lost straight up. Straight up, now tell me, do you really want to lose? Oh no. He would have lost right away. Boom, done. Given to Trump with a bow. So this whole shakeup, and I knew Biden wasn't going to, I knew it. I've been saying for, I don't know, ever since the age of time, I've been saying he wasn't going to go. I didn't even want to read his birth chart because I was like, it's a fucking waste of time. I'm surprised he lasted as long as he did. I honestly thought he was going to tap out a lot easier. I'm kind of surprised that Kamala is the one. Miss Harris is the one, because I don't feel like she really wants it. That's just my interpretation. I've never felt like she really did. I feel like now she does because she has something to prove. She's going to do 1 year and then she's going to drop. The Jupiter, the self-image, I definitely think she has a strong chance. Okay, Saturn. Let's look at the Saturn in the 5th. So we're going to go with USA Saturn in Kamala's 5th house. This area of discipline in the 5th, Saturn in Libra. Like I said, I feel like this is going to have something with her relationships. Career, the Saturn rules Capricorn. I talked about it a little bit in her full chart reading that I felt like this was going to have some kind of indication with her career and her home life. This indicates areas where personality will be restricted by fears. So she does have a lack of confidence in the areas of the home life and of self-expression. Overall, I think that she can't really be, I mean, she is who she is, you know, she is who she is. She is who she is, but there's definitely some regulations. There's definitely some, like they're doing this is how you gotta act. This is what you gotta say. You gotta, you gotta shift that independent vote. The young people, I feel the majority of the young people, female young people, are going to go for Mrs. Harris versus Trump. Will she be able to make some great change? Like I said, I don't necessarily know, because we have to remember the Senate, the Congress, the House of Representatives all pay such a great great focus in these political arenas. We also have the Uranus in the 12th house, the planet of freedom, being rebellious, that energy. USA's Uranus in Gemini. I do feel like she's going to say something controversial I feel like she kind of has, but something else is going to happen with her, with the area of she's going to say something where people are going to see her personality and they're not going to like it. Pluto in Kamala's 8th house. The Pluto in the 8th house, it's not screaming to me like it was with Trump, but the Pluto is exhalated with Leo. Pluto related to will, intense passion. Pluto brings change. Pluto symbolizes issues with power and also with change in that energy of passion. I still do not feel a strong passion alignment with her. Neptune in Kamala's 4th house. Nothing is okay. So when I look at her chart and the USA chart, nothing screaming career. The USA's ascendant in Kamala's 6th house is probably the only thing that really screams out to me. This sign of the ascendant often seen as the individual, as the aspect of the representation. Chiron, USA's Chiron in Kamala's 11th house. To me, it shows that there's a discovery. There's a discovery of possibilities, and also there is the symbolization of goals. It could be a big heartbreak. The 11th house, that area of public image, planets in this house indicate how the vision and the future and the friendships really correlate. In 20 degrees in the sign of Chiron in Aries is in her 11th house. So the midheaven in the 4th house has a strong connection with the public life. And it also is the energy of Libra in 1 degree. So she could be elevated to be the first female president. I do see that a little bit with this transit. But nothing, let's look at the strong aspects. The sun in sextiles with Uranus. It feels like there could be a relationship that evolves. Sun trines Pluto, Sun trines Kamala's Chiron. We know that energy quite well. Definitely feels like relationships and connections. It does feel like it is harmonious. The moon trines Kamala's sun. The USA moon with the strong trine with Kamala's sun, I do like that for somebody who's going into a election. I do feel that since the sun is involved with each of the feminine and the softer sides, the feminine aspect is going to be something that she definitely wins. If she wins, it's definitely going to be that. The moon squares Kamala's Jupiter. That's pretty good. The Pluto squares Kamala's sun. Not necessarily liking that, but it is a deeper connection. People feel like she's secretive, but it isn't necessarily something that I think. I do think that change is going to affect her relationships. And the Pluto also with a strong square with Kamala's moon. The USA's Pluto in strong square. So there's definitely going to be troubles and energies of obsessions, sexuality. Also, there's going to be a further examination in the serious life purpose. So I do think there's a good chance that she could win. I don't see her doing 2 terms though, if she does. Okay, so let's look at the night. Okay, Sun in Scorpio is occurring on November 5th, 2024. At this time, we have the transitioning Sun in her 5th house. It feels electrifying. It also feels like that there is that energy that we see that there is going to be some challenges of her being egotistical and a little bit arrogant, but that could be, and she's going to need to learn to humble. So I think that her creativity could be showing through. The moon in Capricorn in the 7th house, transitioning moon in Capricorn. Relationships of all kinds are emphasized, especially with a focus on partnerships and movements. I also believe that there is going to be a strive for balance in positions. I also think that for her, this is a good movement, transitioning moon in Capricorn in the 7th house of partnerships. Fuck yeah. This feels like somebody who's going to win right here. I like that. I like that a lot for somebody who is going to be the next president. We have Mercury in Sagittarius of the 6th house. Everyday practicality towards movements of patterns. She should also be aware that there's going to be people who are attempting to be overly critical, so she should be doing some self-care. Venus in Sagittarius, the transitioning Venus in Sagittarius in 23 degrees in the 6th house is something I like. I do think that she's going to get a lot of criticism during this time, and it's going to be a good time for her to be sorting out some of her energy. Mars in Leo in the 2nd fucking house. This I like. Mars at 0 degrees. So this could go two ways. The Mars in Leo in the 2nd house could feel explosive. It could also go in areas of material well-being where the material well-being is feeling abundant. And also she will find that energy of reward coming her way. Also, this is material resources becoming to kind of like receiving the fruits of your labor. So that could be a good benefit for her. We also have Jupiter in Gemini in the 12th house. And this energy is lessened, where the ego needs to take a break. The ego needs to kind of take an awareness. The ego needs to kind of like step back. I feel like there's a lot of overthinking, the reflections, the deeper purpose. I like it in a whole for her. I do. Transitioning. And this is going to last all the way till May 15th of 2025, in and out. But for the most time, she's going to have like some emotional and intellectual. It's going to be like a little bit satisfying for her. So I do like that. It's at 20 degrees. Saturn in Pisces in the 10th house at 12 degrees. I don't know how I feel about this. She definitely, this could be good for her because the Saturn could be teaching her responsibilities that for somebody who wants to win, if we're looking at winning, it could be an introduction of her responsibilities with a career, her new public life. There's opportunities to grow. She may encounter some difficulties. We do expect that, right? You're now the president, depending on how the parties feel. There's been a previous cycle, but I do feel that there is definitely this area of goals that it feels aligning where there is rewards and she's able to give the rewards, but she's also going to have to see that energy of Saturn where it might be taking away that energy of with the 10th house. So there could be some movement where a takeaway, but also it might be a bigger chance of her having to deal with her actual responsibilities of now being president. Transitioning Uranus in the 12th house. To me, it's definitely different for her, but it doesn't really feel like it's too overall making a disaster on her career life. But she does have a conscious awareness, and that there is energy that she kind of knew she was going to win. Neptune in Pisces in the 10th house. To me, I see this more affecting, like, what the fuck did I get into? She also may need to, but this also kind of feels like that career dream is coming forward, that you made it career. You know, she may have to give up some of her career. You know what? I don't know if that means because she's going to become president, that there was some other focus she had, or if it's because now she is giving up the chance of being president. I do feel like her going towards the energy of movement and becoming dissatisfied. So it feels like this career is calling her, with it being in the 10th, the Neptune, allowing the dreams to come forward. But if she never really wanted to be president, that's kind of hard. And then we also have the transitioning Pluto in the 8th house. This, to me, is more of a shakeup on energies of her own personal feminine, not necessarily the career space. When we look at the area of Chiron and Aries in the 11th house, I feel like there's a dynamic where there is definitely, she's moving with society and she's making a change, friendships, and she is creating that area with the collective. I do think she has a good chance of winning. North Node in Aries in the 11th house, the relationship with the future. I definitely see that with the area of collective, very future orientated right now. Very future orientated, very centered around groups and dynamics. When we look at her aspects for long term, the Saturn opposition the natal Uranus feels a little explosive and change, established with horizons, but nothing too deep. Saturn conjuncts with the natal Chiron. I think there's definitely personal gains here, but also an area of self-reflection that could be holding her back. But for the most part, I don't think it's really hitting the energy of the career. It's more like on a personal thing. Let's look at some of the Pluto. Pluto squares the natal sun. Definitely a change for her. And I often feel that it means that she's confronting parts of herself that she would rather not face. Pluto squaring the natal moon, transitioning Pluto squaring the natal moon. I do feel like there's a challenge that she has to become real with her emotions. I do believe that that is a good transit for her on energies of winning, though. So, and also Pluto, transitioning Pluto with a strong square of natal Mercury. So she could become more involved in certain energies of big projects. And also there's an interest of the unconscious process of people getting to know her a little bit better, and her day-to-day life has new skills and new change. We also have the Chiron trine the natal Mars. I do feel that there is an inner awareness that is kind of moving forward, where she has to really enter a new understanding and a new energy of healing certain processes and inner awareness. We have Saturn sesquiquadrate the natal sun, which she's more aware than usual of her responsibilities and also her limitations. And also she's more aware of her challenges, and she's more aware of the vitality. She's going to have to really get down to the nitty gritty and dive deep. And she's also going to have to take time to like care for herself, which is kind of hard if you're taking care of the world, or the US. Saturn quintiles natal Jupiter. I feel like after this date, she's also going to have a time where she's going to need to relax. She's been struggling. She has definitely been struggling. And then now she's going to kind of get like tested all the way through. And what is like the real meaning of life for her. So she's definitely going to have some life reflections coming her way. The transitioning Uranus quintiles with the natal Chiron. These are all long-term aspects too. So perhaps she's been considering kind of like relaunching her lifestyle, like doing a glow up. She might have to do a glow up after this. And she might be like emotionally baked, just emotionally fucking tired of everything that has transitioned. There's maybe some pain associated with this type of transition. This process may leave her very like naked in the overall experience, where she's like naked, very vulnerable. She's going to need to kind of like dive deep into some areas of feeling brave and getting aligned with where she's at right now. I do think for somebody who is going against a campaign and possibly winning, that's a good transit for her, even though on the personal aspect, it's going to feel hard. She's going to have to learn to be compassionate with this transitioning Neptune in conjunct her natal sun. I do feel like she's compassionate, but I don't feel like she's compassionate for everybody. Something she might have to work on. The Pluto quintiles the natal Neptune. I think that she's going to have a special sense of heightened religious awareness, spiritual awareness, because she's going to need to find something. And personal insight, a material coming, consequences, a period of time. So, speaking on just the astrology. Okay, so when I look at the astrology of both these candidates, Donald Trump's overall alliance with the collective, for the people who enjoy him, they love him, and it feels more deeper. It feels, it feels more aligned. It feels more explosive. It also feels more angry. With Mrs. Harris, with Kamala, I feel like there's definitely some movement of who can win. I know everybody's like, well, who the fuck is going to win this shit? I will be honest. I think Trump, when we talk about lineup of having a drastic change in his life for not the better, it's probably going to be him for losing. For her, for winning, I do kind of see she might have a good chance of winning. I do think a lot of people will vote for her. The fact that she's a woman is not going to hold them back. I do feel that I don't know if this is necessarily her passion like it is Trump's, in all honesty, which is sad, because I feel like she might get in there and it's like you get in the dream job and you absolutely fucking hate it, right? So I do kind of see that energy coming through. When we look at the Chinese astrology, definitely Kamala. If we're looking at the tropical astrology, Trump feels more aligned with the USA, but those transits on the 5th, I don't like. Hers feel more subtle. When we have high energy moments, we could remember with high energy moments, we don't necessarily want somebody who has a lot of high energy in their chart as well, because that just makes a downfall. If I was going to say who do I think is going to win off of the astrology alone, I think it's Kamala. But we do have to remember that a lot of things play out with presidential elections, and then that's when we get into the energy of the shadow government. So what is the term shadow government? So some people believe that there is a higher entity. There's a higher chance of hidden officials, unelected officials who don't make face. And some people believe that the shadow government is what is controlling this election. The term shadow government is basically alleged. We don't see them, right? We don't know who they are. It's all alleged. It's all speculation. So there's no hard proven fact. It could be like an energy of a conspiracy that allegedly exercises the power and control over the official state of institutions and policies. The concept is usually associated with conspiracy theories that can refer to different ideas depending on the context. Here are like a few interpretations or areas of allegations of what is the shadow government. It could be also known as the deep state. The term shadow government is often used interchangeably in the deep state. It refers to the alleged network of influential members of government agencies such as military, intelligence, communities, and supposedly operate independently rather than with the elected officials to pursue their own goals and agendas. And also to receive revenue, right, from the U.S. Also, the continuity of government, the COG, C-O-G, is a more formal and less conspiracy sense of the shadow government that can refer to the continuity of government's plans that many nations have in place. These are emergency protocols designed to keep government running in case of catastrophes or events such as nuclear attacks or disasters. The shadow government would include designated officials and plans for maintaining essential functions. If a regular government, for whatever reason, is not capable of, then all of a sudden the shadow government would show and basically say we're here to rule. Political opposition. So there is a notion that there is some type of system where there is the term of political opposition, or shadow government can also refer to the opposition's party of alternative government in awaiting. So a lot of people believe that the shadow government is the ones that really decide who's elected, not necessarily the people. And also that this is all planned. It's all planned anyways. It's all pre-programmed. It's all kind of planned out, right? Conspiracy theories in more extreme notions is what the shadow government is a conspiracy theory that there is a government that is portrayed as some kind of secret Kabbalah, often involving elites, secret societies, or foreign powers that manipulates the world's events and controls the government from behind the scenes. And as always, it is important to approach these concepts of the shadow government, of elites or energies of conspiracy theories with a critical but also a stable mind, where you're able to see that these are all unverified claims, right? Same with like astrology. We can't really say that 100% the astrology is going to predict who the next president is. But if I was going to use astrology, I do think that Kamala Harris has the best chart. And a lot of it has to do with the dragon year, the year of the dragon, based off Chinese astrology. The fact that her chart is not as high energetic as Trump's. But we will see, right? A lot of things play out with this. There's also a lot of shift and change as we enter eclipse season. So we will see. I do think that this is not going to be a grand slam for her. This is not going to be an easy election for her. I do feel like she is going to have challenges. But the things that point out to me is there is some change in her chart in the career, but overall it's not too abrupt, where with Trump's it feels very abrupt. And it also feels like there's change happening in his chart that's very monumental, where with hers it feels a little bit more subtle. But people could also see that as unlikelihood that that abrupt energy might be the energy that he needs to win this election. But I do think that people who like Trump like him way more than the people who like Kamala. And I do think that Trump has an overall passion that Kamala does not have. And that's something that might play out. I also think that there's people who want to see her in the White House versus him for multiple reasons, right? And I don't necessarily know if that's a good thing. I honestly think this is what I honestly think. If the elective people, if enough people vote for Trump and he's the winner, they need to just let him be the winner. Let him do what he's got to do, right? I do feel like he has more of a relationship with the U.S. versus she does. And I feel like there are a lot of people who will vote for him. So I do feel like he has a good chance. But astrology speaking, I feel like it's her just because his chart is so explosive. Trump has one of the most dynamic charts I've ever seen in comparisons to a lot of people. He's a very interesting person to watch. She is too, but she's not as interesting as him. I know that's kind of rude, but it's true. He's way more entertaining. He's able to build a rapport. The people who like him, like they love him. And that might get him in. But if I'm just looking at astrology, so this is intuitively, I think Trump is going to win. Astrology speaking, I think it's going to be Harris. So it's kind of going like, what do you trust? Your gut, or do you trust the cosmos? Very interesting, right? But that's how I feel. And that is my reading for the 2024 electional campaign for who will be the president. All right, everybody have an amazing day. Let me know what you think in the comments of who do you think is going to win this election. Have a great day. Bye.